The best hardscape top coat out there. Perfect for DIY backgrounds. Trusted by zoos and private keepers, originally developed for zoo enclosures and museum exhibits. This putty epoxy is truly a game changer.
What's up everyone, welcome back to Brad's Bioactive Builds, where I do step-by-step, do-it-yourself, naturalistic animal enclosures. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to mix up Polygem Zoopoxy 307 Lite. In my opinion, it's the best top coat out there for DIY hardscapes that I've been using for years. Hands down, point blank, it's a game changer product. That's why I'm excited to announce I've teamed up and partnered with them. If interested, I'll drop a link down below in the description on where you can buy it. I'll also be showing you some things you can use it for, along with some other amazing artists that built some really cool stuff. Enough said, let's build.
First, I had to start by prepping. I laid down a piece of tinfoil where I'll be laying my sticks so I can work with part A and part B. One stick for part A of the Zoopoxy and the thickening agent, one stick for part B of the Zoopoxy and thickening agent. Prepped a cooking sheet where I'll put my Zoopoxy after I mix it. Spread it down with water so Zoopoxy won't stick to the aluminum foil. And fill the bowl with water. Water is going to be your best friend when working with Zoopoxy, so it doesn't stick to your gloves or other surfaces that you don't want it to. Took a black garbage bag and put it over a box. This is where I'll be mixing up the Zoopoxy itself. It's not a bad idea to wear a mask when working with the thickening agent, just because of the dust that could kick up. I tend to go a little heavy when working with the thickening agent. It just makes it a little bit easier when mixing up Zoopoxy. With that being said, I applied it to the working station. I typically like to buy in bulk, so with that I got a 10-gallon kit, which comes with 5 gallons of part A and 5 gallons of part B. Part A is going to be your lighter gray, and part B is going to be your darker gray. I got my thickening stick for part A all prepped up, covered in powder. This will help slide the Zoopoxy off the other stick. Scooped up part A, and slid it off into the thickening agent. Took part B thickening agent stick and got it covered in powder, and scooped up part B. For your first batch, I would suggest only mixing up a little bit. There is a slight learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, it's super easy to work with. Zoopoxy is more forgiving than most putty epoxies. It is supposed to be a 50-50 blend, but if it's not exact, that's okay. I typically just eyeball it and add part A or B to balance it out. Sprinkling on a little bit of the thickening agent, and then press them together, kneading it like dough. The best way I found to mix it together was just rolling it over on top of each other, looking for one consistent color, getting rid of any swirls or marbling. If it starts getting sticky, simply just put it back into the thickening agent. Zoopoxy is 60 to 70% lighter than traditional grout, concrete, or mortar, making it ideal for large-scale background builds where weight is a concern, especially in glass enclosures. It also offers plenty of working time, around 30 to 60 minutes depending on batch size and temperature, and fully cures in 24 hours. Placed it onto the tray that I sprayed down with water earlier so I can mix up my next batch. The next batch will be much larger. This is about as big as I'll go, to where I find it still manageable to work with. Some other interesting facts about Zoopoxy is it cures without shrinking, unlike concrete or other fillers, so what you sculpt is exactly what you get, perfect for detail carving or rock work that needs to hold its form. Despite being lightweight, it hardens like a rock, tough enough to withstand claws, water, and daily wear in the working vivarium or paludarium. Long-lasting, doesn't break down or flake like foam or grout over time. Fully waterproof once cured, suitable for underwater use in aquariums, ripariums, and paludariums. Safe for fish, reptiles, amphibians, and plants once cured. Will not alter the pH levels like concrete. Excellent for carving in texture. Holds sculpting detail very well. Perfect for rock textures, ledges, tree bark, or cave walls. Can be tooled, brushed, or textured easily as it sets. I'll be applying what we mixed up right here. Dip my hands into some water so Zoopoxy won't stick to my gloves. And press it into the wall. It's as simple as that. When grabbing more, just dipping my hands into water and repeating the same process. You want to apply it about 1/4 inch thick, but for higher traffic areas, I go a little bit thicker. I left this part of the paludarium untouched for two reasons. One, I wanted to do a specific how-to mix up Zoopoxy video for all my viewers. And two, to simulate if you ever needed to do repair work in a build that was up and running. It's as easy as just tying it right into the existing background. Once again, I'll drop a link in the description down below on where you can buy it. For texturing it, I just use a rock silicone stamp, dipped it in water, and pressed it into the Zoopoxy. This really does start to create that naturalistic rock look. If your stamp starts sticking, dip it into water. Zoopoxy binds extremely well to foam, wood, PVC, tile, glass, and more, ideal for hybrid builds combining materials. For the final touches and details, I took a wet sea sponge and dabbed it all over the place, creating more texture. Next up, I'll be painting it. It accepts acrylic and Drylok paints beautifully after curing. It makes realistic rock finishes, mossy ledges, or custom backgrounds come to life. For this application, I'm using Drylok mixed in with acrylic paints. Once again, it's important to note that Zoopoxy is waterproof all in itself. That's not why I'm using Drylok. I'm using it for the matte finish look once it's dried. Sprayed on some watered down black acrylic paint to make it look more weathered. This will also help in tying the background together. Going in with my dry brush using 3 different tones of brown, having it all come to life. I do have a full series on how I built this 8x4x6 paludarium. Feel free to check it out. I'll also post it down in the description below.
Now here's some really cool things you can use Zoopoxy for, whether it's repair work or building out your dream enclosure.
I had some of the water going over the waterfall on my 36-18-36 paludarium. So to fix that problem, I just took a little bit of Zoopoxy, built up the wall, to reroute the water back towards the fall. One of the added benefits of working with Zoopoxy is it makes for a quick repair. This cuts down on time, so you can get the animals back into the enclosure as soon as possible. One of the biggest struggles I see with people making paludariums is separating the water from the land section. Zoopoxy was the ultimate answer. All I had to do was put a little bit into the enclosure, seal it off with silicone, and call it a day. This will make for a much more natural finish instead of just installing glass or corrugated plastic, creating a watertight seal. But really there are no limits on what you can make with Zoopoxy. If you can dream it, you can build it. Here's a drip wall I made for my veranda's coming eye in an 8x4x6 vivarium. Take a look through my video library where I have step-by-step DIY on all these builds. I've also found it very easy to make plant holders with drainage working with this stuff. Zoopoxy is going to work great for any size application, whether it's small or this nearly 6 foot tall waterfall. But regardless of size, it's definitely a product I've trusted over the years to get the job done. Here I am mending a tree using Zoopoxy and a fake bark silicone stamp. Like I've said, its possibilities are endless. Kinda like how I cut out a viewing window that's gonna hold 300 gallons of water, so I'll be able to enjoy my fish and martins swimming underwater. Using Polygem Zoopoxy to make everything watertight and add extra strength. Or making a lid to a nest box to make everything look seamless.
Now to see some inspiring things created by other awesome artists. That's one thing I really love about this community, always pushing each other to the next level. Before I get into that, I'd like to give a huge shout out to my Patreons. Your added support is super appreciated. Where we get one-on-one video calls, real-time behind-the-scenes footage of my current DIY project, early access to my content, community chats, and so much more.
For Nate's first time working with Zoopoxy, this hardscape came out amazing. Eddie made 2 really cool enclosures for his rosy boa and king snake. I really like the color patterns he chose on the naturalistic hardscape rock. Up next we got Mike's monitors with his famous whiskey barrel builds. The art that he's been able to create over the years is truly inspirational. Just in case you were wondering, Mike is the one that showed me and introduced me to Polygem Zoopoxy 307 Lite. That's what I've really found this hobby to be, one artist influencing another, ultimately benefiting their animals. I'd also like to give a shout out to Dave with Dave Kaufman's Reptile Adventures for letting me use some of this footage. Definitely go check out some of his videos, especially the ones with Mike's Monitor's reptile room tours. You won't be disappointed. Kimberleys are some of my favorite monitor lizards, and this enclosure really brings a slice of the Kimberleys to your home. Hopefully one day I'll be able to create something just as cool. Some other cool things that he's made is this nest box that looks like a termite mound for his Simulus monitors. James's craftsmanship on this enclosure alone is impeccable. But for working with Zoopoxy for his first time, he really knocked this hardscape out of the park. I really love it when people take on a challenge and execute it with precision. Matt definitely delivered on the sculpting of the fake rock and the termite mounds while working with Polygem Zoopoxy. I'm sure Zoomastic is living it up in there. Snake Therapy has a good way of spreading the mileage, adding Zoopoxy in certain parts of the enclosure to really enrich and bring together everything for an artistic element. She's also integrated great ways on functionality with design. Plus, the trees that she's made look totally realistic. And Mike Gravia does some jaw-dropping work. I'll let the video speak for itself, but truly an artist at heart. The attention to detail is purely amazing.
Drop a comment on what you thought was most helpful in this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps this channel continue to grow. For a full series on a build, check it out right up here. For another video you might like, check it out right there. For all my favorite DIY builds, check out this playlist right here. Thanks for watching.